Hello everyone and welcome to a video about World of Warcraft. I haven't done a WoW video in quite a while, considering that I no longer have a subscription to World of Warcraft, and I'm very sad because I kind of want to play Shadowlands and get ready for Shadowlands, but that's not going to stop me from talking about certain updates and features that are currently on the Shadowlands Alpha. And in this video, I want to specifically talk about Warlock. Now, for me, having a Warlock video as my very first video for Shadowlands, hello, motorcycle, it's a bit strange because I'm typically a priest main. I've made a bunch of priest videos. I play priest quite a lot. However, my second main is a Warlock, and specifically a Demonology Warlock. And I absolutely love Warlocks, specifically Affliction and Demonology. Affliction for the thematic elements of, rotting people, and once again, Demonology for the thematic elements of summoning a bunch of minions and being a master of death and forcing them to do your bidding and deal some damage. So I specifically want to tackle Demonology in this video from what we've seen from the alphas, the way Demonology is currently playing, the abilities that they've put in, the abilities that they have not removed, just their overall, direction with Demonology. So let's begin with the general sense of Shadowlands. Now, for Shadowlands, they've done the great unpruning of skills, giving a bunch of abilities that they've pruned in the past back to existing classes. Specifically with Warlocks, they've given them a bunch of new curses. Curse of Fragility, Curse of Weakness, Curse of a lot of other things that I have not memorized right now, but many more debuffs to the targets, which I'm all here for, and it's of course class-wide. On top of these curse abilities, they've also gone through with other classes and given abilities just baseline to the specific class. I know for Mage you can now cast Firebolt, Frostbolt, I think Arcane Explosion, regardless. So it's bringing more life to the base class, with of course specializations doing just that, specializing in a specific role. Now, for the case of Demonology, this is where a lot of people have some pain points, including myself. We haven't really seen big changes to Demonology, and from what I've heard, their damage isn't too hot right now. Once again, as a disclaimer, I've not played or tested this myself. I'm just kind of going off of hearsay and what I've seen, and of course the spells and abilities that we have. So that is one major issue with the damage, considering Demonology is a damaging spec. All three of the Warlock specializations are damaging specializations. Affliction got a massive rework in terms of their Soul Shard Spenders, Unstable Affliction, Vile Taint, so on and so forth. Destruction, I think, got a couple nice improvements, and it's just Destruction is just genuinely and generally pretty fair, though Demonology seems to have gotten the short end of the stick, as it has in the past. Now I want to talk about some things that could possibly improve it, specifically with the feel. I feel like, or so I've heard, one of the main issues right now is that you're summoning minions, but you're not necessarily summoning a wide variety, and you don't necessarily have a large amount of control with the minions, and you're really only summoning wild imps, and you have your Felguard out as your permanent pet. And of course your Dread Stalkers as your base, one of your baseline damaging abilities. So you have these three staples: the wild imps from the Hand of Gul'dan, the Felguard, which you just have to take as a Demonology Warlock. It's just, if you don't take it, what are you doing with your life? Which could be a pain point because it's not allowing much flexibility. And then of course you have your Call Dread Stalkers. What I would like to see in a general sense is to just implement a couple more minion abilities and pet summons. Instant activation ones, or, slight cast time ones, which will consume a soul shard or two, but offer a more specific effect in line with the demonology. Like, say, for example, it's currently a talent, but I think that this talent or spell would really work quite well on the base Demonology Warlock. Summon Vile Fiend. It's another summon, but it's locked behind a talent. Now, I do think you can have some talents where you summon a minion, but I feel like Vile Fiend could be a really interesting ability and spell if they just gave it some more love. It could act where it does, baseline heavier damage because it does have like a 45-second cooldown. But it could do just flat a little bit more damage, but also have an added effect of like siphoning health from a target, where like each hit the Warlock will gain like 200 or like 100 health. Nothing huge, but something a little bit more minor. Or Vile Fiend, where like when it attacks, it applies a stack of maybe a dot, or it will on critical strike apply corruption, because corruption currently has a cast time for demonology, and it's not the most user-friendly thing to use because it is a cast time, and a lot of demonology has a cast time. So this could be a way of, mixing and empowering more of your demons. Now, people might say like, oh, this is like AI, you don't want to do that. However, with Warlock, and specifically with demonology, I think it would probably be better and much more understandable if the community and the devs and players in general saw these minions, these AI, as pretty much just manifestation of spells. Like, you don't call a Frostbolt AI because it's just an attack. With Summon Vile Fiend, it could kind of be like that, or other summons where you will send out a minion to deal an attack just for thematic purposes. Both tackling, the specializations themes, while also granting the Warlock more damage. Kind of like if you say like Shadow Word Death, a big spike of damage, you could implement that genre of skill, big bursty damaging abilities that aren't necessarily over time but instant, and just put that on like, I don't know, another demon, where like the demon will charge forward, deal an attack, and then go back and like disappear. Something along those lines. In terms of the spells that we have already, I'm just going to touch on a couple. Called Dreadstalkers. It costs 2 soul shards right now. Part of me feels like it could just be 1. I don't know. I'm not super mad that it costs 2 because you are summoning 2, but it's such a staple that it also competes with Hand of Gul'dan, which you typically want to use when you have at least 3 soul shards. And your soul shard generation could be fairly slow at times, or so I have felt. But other people might feel a bit differently. So, just an aside, it's probably very insignificant and doesn't hold too much weight. However, it's just something I thought about. Of course, I talked about Summon Vile Fiend. I think Summon Vile Fiend could just be a really great baseline summon. Summon Vile Fiend, of course, using 1 soul shard. I think that's much more appropriate. It does have a 45-second cooldown, so having abilities and spells that introduce a minion but do have a larger cooldown would, I think, be really cool. So you could actually like have that, zoo type play, that myriad of creatures. Of course, giving it some extra little, flavor. And then there's currently an issue with interrupts and interrupting foes and spell locking them, because we can't really play with a Fell Hunter at all times because you have to take your Felguard. If you don't take Felguard, once again, what are you doing? You need to take Felguard. So I think it could be interesting if we had just a baseline ability like Grimoire summon Fell Hunter for like 10 seconds, which will instantly spell lock someone or interrupt them in some way. The cooldown could be like, you know, another 45-second cooldown, something that you want to have that planned out. Oh, I'm going to be using this now, and also have the backlash of like, oh, if I didn't use it properly or wisely, I can't just use it again in another 10 seconds. So the another grimoire spell baseline could be interesting. Honestly, with demonology, I wouldn't be mad if they had grimoire skills for each of the pets, like grimoire summon imp, where the imp will burn the target or like rip a buff. A grimoire succubus, where it'll like instantly enchant and latch on to a humanoid. Summon grimoire, summon voidwalker, where it will taunt another enemy. Something along those lines. Especially because demonology is in the name. I just feel like just having the Fel Guard, the Dreadstalkers, and the Imps, it's getting a little close-minded, and a little too narrow. Of course, we do have Summon Demonic Tyrant, which is actually really great, and I'm not super mad at. I think Summon Demonic Tyrant is a great cooldown. Speaking of cooldowns, I've pretty much covered the general topic. As a quick recap, covered the general topic of Shadowlands and its class design, talking about possible more minions for demonology, and then I went over some base abilities for demonology. Once again, this is a very limited video. Not going to go too much into detail. But now I want to talk about cooldowns. We have the Summon Demonic Tyrant, which I think is a really awesome cooldown. I think design-wise, it's interesting, it's cool, it gets buffed for each demon that you have up, and then once again, having more demons available as spells on, you know, lengthy cooldowns could allow smart play with Summon Demonic Tyrant, where you're able to get a lot of damage through your Tyrant, which would, you know, help the problem of demonology not doing great damage right now. So there could be buffs in certain areas. But I want to introduce another cooldown. This is actually currently a level 50 talent, Nether Portal. I love Nether Portal, but from what I've heard, no one really takes it because of the 2.5 second cast time, the soul shard contribution that it needs, and its 3-minute cooldown. Demonic consumption and sacrifice souls are just far better. I would propose that you just take Nether Portal and make it a baseline 3-minute cooldown for people to use. So every 1.5 minutes, you could summon a Demonic Tyrant, while every 3 minutes, you can summon another portal. Basically have the same functionality. Have it like a 1-second cast time. I don't think the cast time needs to be 2.5 seconds. But you summon a portal. However, I would change the functionality a bit. This ability would only be usable with a stack of 5 soul shards. So you summon the Nether Portal with 5 soul shards, instantaneously summoning 5 demons, 5 random demons. They don't all have to be powerful. You could possibly limit the pool of demons, but from what I've seen, from what I've played, this skill isn't so great, especially with the demons summoned. So you would summon 5 demons, and then subsequently, every soul shard spender that you use, you will summon 1 extra demon. And this would last for 15 to 20 seconds. I think the 3-minute cooldown is very fair. But as a talent, I think that this is just too punishing, especially with Sacrifice Souls and Demonic Consumption, both having vastly smaller cooldowns and much more effectiveness. Sacrifice Souls just being a straight up passive, Demonic Consumption just affecting your Tyrant, and empowering that even more. Nether Portal just, I don't see it getting a lot of love, because Nether Portal in its design could further empower Demonic Tyrant. However, Demonic Consumption just has so much more reliability in terms of that it consumes your wild imps. So the more wild imps that you have from hand to cooldown, you're just going to get more use out of it. So no one ever really is going to take Nether Portal. Like, but it's so cool. Do not just get rid of this ability. I think this would be a great global cooldown. Or, you know, a big cooldown for you to manage, especially in a raiding fight. And you end up having like a bunch of like corruptors and stuff like that going forth and killing people. But yeah, so in closing with Demonology Warlock, I'd like to see more demons and minions themselves. I feel like this could just be completely me going insane, but if I remember correctly, I feel like there was a talent where like you summon like a Dementor-esque minion and it like casted from afar. It wasn't an observer. I think it was something else. Was it in Legion? I don't know, but bring that back. You could maybe have a couple more talents where you're summoning a specific minion with a specific function. But I also would like to see certain minions be introduced into the base Demonology class with specific niche functions. Maybe having a minion that heals you for like 10 seconds of its duration. A minion that will shackle someone. A minion that will stun someone, a minion that will debuff someone, a minion that might buff your party members or something like that. I want the demonology to be more than just a better damaging affliction or destruction warlock. So yeah, more demons, more demons. The topic of metamorphosis on demonology is interesting, and I think it could work if it was a ranged metamorphosis and maybe had a different, effect than that lumbering, hulking demon, which was very Demon Hunter-esque. If it was more lithe and creepy and, more light armor, clothy, warlock-like, like a caster, a ranged demonic caster, that could be really cool too. I just hope that Demonology will receive some love, maybe a couple reworks and spell updates and additions. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope that this open mic ramble podcast type format wasn't super hard and was, just nice to listen to. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below your thoughts on this video on demonology. And all the links are down below. Patreon, Twitter, Discord, all the stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.